Vice President J.D. Vance shares a new vision for America in the next decade. That morning, the sky over Washington, D.C., was a pale gray. Vice President J.D. Vance stood alone in the small briefing room, where he prepared for the most anticipated speech since taking office. But what he was about to share wasn't familiar numbers or slogans. It was a vision of America 10 years from now, when the world would no longer be the same as it is today. J.D. Vance understood one thing clearly. America was on the threshold of transformation. Old formulas were no longer sufficient to answer new questions. In the next decade, America would face a more competitive world, faster-paced technology, and people demanding more from their leaders. In his thinking, the new vision for America had to begin at the foundations of society. A nation cannot be strong if communities are divided, if workers feel their future is being replaced by machines, and if young people lose faith that their efforts will be rewarded. J.D. Vance believes that the greatest task of the next decade is to restore the connection between people, between the state and its citizens. He recalls once bustling industrial towns now silent, streets where shops close earlier because there are no more customers. For him, the new vision cannot ignore those places. The United States of the next 10 years must be a country where opportunities are not concentrated in large cities, but extend to every rural area, every small community. In his draft speech, J.D. Vance wrote that the future economy of America cannot rely solely on growth, but on sustainability. Technology needs to serve people, not make them redundant. Education needs to be redefined, not just as a degree, but as a lifelong adaptability. He envisions a system where workers can relearn, change careers, and not be left behind as the world changes. Regarding global standing, J.D. Vance doesn't speak of dominance, but of responsibility. In his vision, the United States in the next decade will be a nation that listens, cooperates, and wisely chooses its role. Intervention isn't necessary everywhere, and not every issue requires America's voice. But when the United States speaks, it must be a credible voice. He also devoted considerable time to considering artificial intelligence and data technology. J.D. Vance believes it's a double-edged sword. If left unchecked, technology can create new inequalities, but if properly managed, it can usher in an unprecedented era of prosperity. His vision was for an America that leads in technology, but without sacrificing human values for efficiency. When discussing national security, J.D. Vance didn't just think about the military. In the next decade, he believed security would also encompass stable supply chains, robust healthcare systems, and the ability to respond to global crises. A strong nation is one that can withstand shocks, whether external or internal. In his impromptu speech, there was a passage that resonated deeply. The next decade will not ask how much power America has, but whether America is wise enough to use that power. This is how J.D. Vance viewed leadership in the new era, not through imposition, but through example. When his presentation ended, he didn't expect prolonged applause. What he hoped for was for people to think, to debate, and to ask questions. For him, a vision only has meaning when it is challenged and perfected by society itself. In the afternoon, J.D. Vance left the building, blending into the crowd on the street. He saw different faces, young people hurrying, old people pensive, ordinary families striving to build better lives. That was the reason behind the vision he pursued. In the next decade, the United States will inevitably face difficulties. But in the mind of Vice President J.D. Vance, the future remains full of hope, not because America is perfect, but because America has the capacity to change itself. And if it can maintain that capacity, then no matter how the world changes, this nation can still find its own path.